Well, today's project is making a bench out of a old futon frame. My neighbor gave me an old futon pine frame. He had no use for it, so I took it. I'm going to make a bench similar to this. This bench here I made about 2 years ago, last year as a matter of fact. Last year I made this, and made it out of furring strips. But I'm going to make a bench on a much larger scale out of that futon. It's made out of 1-inch thick pine. It's 6 foot long, so it's going to be a good huge bench for outside here. So let me just show you what I've got here. I got the futon frame laying on the ground over there, and I'll show you what I've got to work with and how I'm going to do the job. Well, I've got this futon frame given to me. I have no use for it other than to make a bench for outside for our cookouts and so forth. So I'm going to have to modify it a little bit. This is would be the back, so I'll have to take off this much so that the back isn't too tall. And on the seating area here, this part is going to be uncomfortable to sit on, and these are spaced quite a bit out, so it may not be all that comfortable. And what I'll have to do is cut this off of here too, so that you have from here to sit on. Because from here to here is too much. You can't sit on it and get comfortable all the way back to the leaning back. So originally it, as I said, was a futon, and you just put the back on and you use through these holes over here, as you can probably see. And that way you can use it as a bed, or you can put it down as a put it up as a like a couch. Then of course, being that this is the bottom, of course, the part you're going to be sitting on, I will have to make some legs for this so that you're not sitting on the ground, so to speak. So it'll be about maybe 16 or 18 inches up off the ground, so you'll be able to be more comfortable sitting on it. So that's what I have to do. And of course this wood is very wide. This is probably about 8 inches. So that will give me enough support for the legs. And the leaning back does not have to be that wide, but I might have to leave it that way because of these mounting holes. So I might have to leave the whole thing that way. It's kind of a big clunky thing. What I'll do is I get it all done and I'll just paint it redwood. And that's it. So we're going to get started on this right now. Well, the best thing to do first is I'm going to try to secure all this together using, you know, putting the dowel in here and the two carriage bolts, one on each end here to hold it together. And then I'll do my necessary modifications, because this is way too high for an outside bench. If I cut this off down to here and leave it just up to here, that will make a good bench. It won't be too high. There's no point in having it that high. And the same with this part here. Just from here over to here, that should be fine. Bolts that came with it when you raise and lower it. So we get that lined up, and then we get this hole here, and that hole down there, that's where a dowel would go. Well, we're not going to deal with the dowel. We're just going to line it up, and then we're going to put some couple of carriage bolts in here when I add the leg. So we'll add the leg and everything all at the same time. And I shouldn't need one in the middle, but we are going to need one over there. And the leg, of course, will come out on an angle like this so that this thing don't fall back on you when you're sitting in it or leaning back or clowning around or whatever the case may be. This thing is angled too much here. I'm going to have it about like that. About like that, just a little slope. I don't want this way back here. That's too far of a slope. But I'll experiment with it by sitting in it. First thing I'm going to do is we're going to take off this section of here. We're going to draw a straight edge and mark it right here, so that this leaning back is only up to here. Then we're going to take this piece here and we're going to fasten it to here, to the edge of this wood that we cut off, and that'll be like a little cap, so to speak. And we're going to do the same with the front. We're going to cut back over to here. So start with one thing at a time here. we'll work on the leaning back first. So I drew my line here, so I'm going to cut this right straight across. In order to cut this with my skill saw, I can only come up to about here. So I'm going to have to take my trim saw, start it out here, and cut it down to about here. And the same with the other two. Then I'll finish making those cuts using my small trim saw. Temporarily clamping these into the vertical position so that I can get my little skill saw in there, and it'll be a lot easier to work with. Then after that's done, as I said, I'll remove this piece and I'll lay it on the top here and fasten it down. And then I'll put this back down at the angle I want it to be, and then fasten it with carriage bolts. There we go. That's number one. 2 more to go. Well, 1 more to go, and that's it. Just got to cut this one here. And we're simply adding this other piece right on the top here, and I'm just going to nail this down. Well, I successfully cut it here, and you can see that we're all nailed in here, and we've got now just about a 20-inch, a little better than 20-inch height on the back, and that's not bad. On the bottom, that's 23 inches. That's very uncomfortable to sit in. We're going to cut it back to here, which will give us a seat of 17 inches, and that's more realistic. And again, we'll do the same as we did on the top up here. We cut this off here. We use this front piece down here, but without this ridge here. All I got to do now is to adjust it back to the angle I want, and then put 4 legs on this thing. So I'm going to go measure up the legs now. I got some of this pressure treated. This is just about 1 inch thick here. It's pressure treated, but it's been outside, so it's wet. After leveling it off, sitting in it, that's the angle at which I want my seat back to be. What I'm going to do here, this is the bottom, of course, and this is the front part. I'm going to put a 17-inch leg up here, so it'll be 18, because this wood is exactly 1 inch thick. So I'm going to put a 17-inch leg, one on each end, and then we're going to measure and get the angle leg for the back, because you don't want this thing flipping over. I used the chop saw here. I got this at a yard sale a couple of years ago for 20 bucks. And it doesn't do compound miters, but it does miters, which is good enough. It's not that I'm cheap and buying something new. I'm just a poor guy. So I got to get whatever I can get, the best deal for the money. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and cut this pressure-treated wood here. And we're going to make it 17 inches for the 2 front legs, and then we got to do some measurements to get the back legs. I got the 2 front ones on. This thing's upside down here. Now I just got to get the angle, the back one on an angle here, and I make sure it comes out to 17 inches from here to the bottom of the seat. So what I have to do here is drop a straight edge. This is 7.5 inches here. The whole leg is 17, and the thickness of the wood, of course, as I said, is 1 inch. So we drop a piece of wood right across here, and then we get the measurement where we have to cut this angle here. But before we do that, we got to cut this angle. We just can't slap this in there looking like that. I mean, I can, but I'm not a perfectionist, but I do like something to look a little better than that.